Let's watch Belly and Conrad tour Paris. This is a scene-by-scene analysis of Belly and Conrad in the series finale of The Summer I Turned Pretty, because every scene was necessary and had a purpose in bringing out the emotional complexities of the story. So Belly and Conrad in Paris was not in the book, but it's a really important and meaningful addition to the story. Because if we're to believe that Belly and Conrad's love is truly infinite, then we need to see that their connection can exist outside of cousins. We need to know that their love was not just because of circumstance, that if we take them away from the places, people, and identities that they're familiar with, they would still have that same force field of a connection. Both the characters themselves and we, the audience, need to know that Belly and Conrad's love is beyond just nostalgia and shared history. So as we watch this montage of Belly and Conrad touring Paris, we're also watching them get reacquainted with each other. But as much as this is a reunion, it's really them meeting for the first time as fully formed individuals. Belly's no longer the same girl who's never left the sheltered bubble of home. She's now more mature, independent, experienced, and confident in who she is. And we see this come through in the way that she carries herself, and the way that Conrad has to follow her lead as she's in control of showing him the city and her life. But at the same time, Belly is, in many ways, still the same Belly she used to be, as is evident by the flood of emotions that came up the moment Conrad showed up. And this points to something in Belly's journey of identity that she will have to come to terms with by the end of this episode. The idea that who she is today is an amalgamation of who she used to be. And this is a great takeaway for all of us, that we don't have to completely deny or discard previous versions of ourselves out of shame, regret, or fear. Being true to who we are means embracing all those previous versions of ourselves with grace and compassion. But Belly's not quite there yet. By coming to Paris, she was able to just run away and leave the old Belly behind and not really deal with what happened back home. Yes, Paris is what enabled her to grow in wonderful ways, but it's also what enabled her to avoid dealing with her fears and shame. But Conrad being here is going to challenge her to finally confront her feelings for him, but also to confront herself and to reconcile her past with her present. But at this point in the story, Belly's still keeping Conrad at arm's length. She's being guarded and she's not really letting him in, choosing instead to keeping things very casual and on the surface. And we see Conrad give Belly this studied look, and Belly almost steeling herself to keep her composure, which is in direct contrast with this flashback to Belly being completely relaxed, open, and fully herself. And when the camera cuts back to Conrad, we see him wistfully bow his head, because he's longing to see that Belly, the real Belly without any of her walls up. Conrad wants to see and know who Belly is now. He wants to get to her heart. Here he tricks her for a photo, and we see them starting to loosen up with each other. Okay, this is one of my all-time favorite scenes because I love the blocking here so much, where the camera pans around Belly, but we can see Conrad keeping his eyes on her, studying her with this curious affection. But this is not one-sided. Remember the scene at the rehearsal dinner that revealed how Belly also yearns for Conrad?
All night I haven't looked in his direction, but I always know where he is. I am painfully aware of him.
She does something very similar here. Watch her face. Right there. Belly is still painfully aware of Conrad. She's still drawn to him, and we see them start doing this little dance by being coy and playful with each other. This moment tells us that Belly is still fond of and charmed by Conrad. I like to use the analogy of a clam to describe Belly in this episode. In the beginning, when Conrad first arrived, she's very guarded. She put on this cool, hard, protective exterior, like a clam that's completely shut and closed off, not letting Conrad see at all the more real and vulnerable parts of her. But as they spend more time together, we're going to see Belly slowly begin to open up and let Conrad into the more personal, private, and tender parts of herself.
What do you want to see after this? Probably the Eiffel Tower, right?
Sure.
Has nice views. Is there something else we could do? Père Lachaise or Jim Morrison is buried?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Belly is doing what she told herself to do. Play tour guide and then just send him on his way. And that's really just her continuing to be avoidant. So she's keeping their time together very casual, very surface, just sightseeing and making small talk. Literally the same stuff that she will probably be doing with anyone who's visiting Paris for the first time. But that's not why Conrad is here. The way he responded to her suggestions with half-hearted enthusiasm shows that Conrad couldn't care less about seeing the sights. He's here to reconnect with Belly, and we're gonna see him try to cut through the surface stuff by sharing something vulnerable about himself. He's trying to gather his courage.
I've spent a lot of time imagining your life here.
She's surprised and kind of touched by his vulnerability.
I don't know, I'll do anything. But I wish that I could see Paris the way that you do.
What he just said is so tender and sweet and also very intimate. To want to see Paris the way Belly does means there's such a longing in Conrad to be with her that he wants to see things through her eyes, to share in the experience of her life, to know the things that are personal and private to her. If you're a fan of Pride and Prejudice, this is the same reason why Mr. Darcy walked the whole way to see Elizabeth, because he knew she loved walking. To love someone so deeply that you want to understand and experience things the way that they do, it shows such a longing for intimacy with that person. I love how he looked at her expectantly after sharing his heart, and how she took a deep breath before saying okay, as if she also had to gather her courage to meet him in the way that he's asking her to, as her true self.
I know where I'm gonna take you.
Where?
You'll see.
There's that playfulness again. And his eagerness following after her, asking where? Okay, so up until now, we've seen Belly pretty guarded and closed off to Conrad, like a clam in a protective shell. But Conrad is inviting her to be more open. And in the next scene on the rooftop, we're gonna see Belly be more vulnerable with him, and how that's gonna pave the way for them to really reconnect in a deeper and meaningful way.